Okay, why is this movie getting so much negative reception? Before it came out, Elemental had a 44% Rotten Tomato score. It did not have good early reviews at its premiere. For some reason, it premiered at a film festival, and I heard the reception was very negative. So, closer to the film's release, it managed to skyrocket up a bit to about 85% on Rotten Tomatoes. Unfortunately, the film had the lowest opening day for any Pixar film, even lower than The Good Dinosaur. It's honestly a shame because I just saw Elemental as it just first aired here, and I was overall impressed with the film. It is, in my opinion, Pixar's most beautiful looking film. It's visually creative, stunning, and hypnotizing. I honestly had more investment in this film compared to Into the Spider-Verse. I'm not joking. Elemental actually made me feel more for what was happening on screen. That being said, Elemental may be Pixar's best looking film in my opinion, but that doesn't make it the best story or the best movie from them. The story itself is not the film's strongest suit. It has beautiful moments, a few chuckles, and a few heartbreaking moments, but the story itself isn't anything to run home excited over. A lot of people were joking about this film before it even came out. They joked about how, oh, it's just going to be a big allegory for mixed race couples, and how there's going to be a bunch of racists saying like, oh, that can't happen. So it's basically a allegory of mixed race couples represented by anthropomorphic fire and water. Yes, the stuff is in the movie and it is obvious, but it's not painfully obvious. They won't constantly hammer it over your head. It's not constantly repeated or shoved down your throats. So there is more to the movie than just water and fire don't mix being repeated over and over. The animation was hypnotizing to watch. The fire characters crossed a fine line between being CG but somehow feeling like 2D characters as well, with the addition of the red outlines to make the shapes of their nose or edges, and the flames really gave off a Studio Ghibli vibe, almost like Calcifer from Howl's Moving Castle. What do you know? A third Pixar film in recent years that has an obvious Ghibli vibe. So the way the flame characters move around like wind is constantly blowing against them was visually entertaining to look at, along with how ripply and wobbly the water characters were. This movie has some remarkable facial expressions. The two main characters, the visuals and music were what really made this movie work. But the side and supporting characters left a lot to be desired. Even the world they were in, it just feels kind of like a bland copy and paste of Zootopia. So I found the two main characters very likable and relatable for the most part, though Ember does make a lot of dumb decisions in the film. I still wanted to see the relationship between these two work out in the end. So our film opens up being about the main character Ember, as she was being raised by two immigrant parents made of fire as well. So they went from a land of fire and moved to a place called Elemental City, basically a Zootopia for sentient beings of water, air, earth, and fire. We see throughout the film how Elemental City was mainly built for the needs of all the elements except for fire. The fire people are poorly treated and even seen as a danger to many of the other elements. The fire people practically had to build their own society to live in, since other places in Elemental City weren't welcoming them in. So Ember was raised by her parents to work in her dad's gift shop, being promised that someday she'll own the shop herself. As Ember gets older, she slowly begins to realize she doesn't want to deal with the frustrations of dealing with customers. However, her dad is starting to lose his health a bit, and so she's really feeling like she's running out of time. He's going to pass it down soon, and she doesn't feel ready for it. So Ember was very relatable for me. Not only with her job and also with her anger issues. She has some rage issues, but she's aware of it. She doesn't like that, and I can relate to that. I know how bad it is where sometimes you want to let anger out, but you don't because you don't want to scare people or anything. And so that and like there's a scene where she's getting overwhelmed with all these customers who are either being smart with her or flat out being dumb with her, and you see like how she's getting anxiety and she's getting angry, and I find that very relatable. I just left like 2 previous jobs that relate with customer service, and I really felt her pain when she was getting really angry at these customers and feeling horrified when her anger gets out. It's like I know how that's like, and luckily I never let out my temper in front of customers though, but there are times where it's like, don't do it, it's like I feel like I am going to lose my edge with them and I don't want that to happen. And so one day when Ember accidentally loses her temper, an explosion of flames causes her to accidentally damage some pipes in the shop. Suddenly, a being of water named Wade bursts through the pipes. It is revealed Wade was an inspector who was inspecting the city's water when he somehow got sucked through one of the water pipes and ended up in Ember's dad's shop due to Ember breaking the pipes. Wade comes across as a very timid and well-meaning guy who's just doing his job, another character I can relate to. So upon learning that Ember's family are technically illegal immigrants, he has no choice but to write a report about it and send it back to his job. And so Ember chases Wade across the city trying to get that report back, only to be too late. As she gives a sob story over how disappointed her dad will be losing his shop because of her, Wade takes pity on her and tries helping her find a way to get his boss to pardon her and her family. So throughout the film, we see Ember and Wade working together to try to fix the city's water leak problem. Yeah, like, the fact that that's the big plot of the film is kind of annoying. It's like you're hoping for a little bit more than, oh, these characters have to work together to fix, like, a water issue. It's kind of weird, but, yeah, basically they're just going through with this in hopes that it'll get Wade's company to excuse Ember's family. So meanwhile, the two start to fall in love with each other, and over the course, we see how they're too afraid to get too close to each other because they don't know what would happen. It's like, what would happen if they touched each other, held hands or anything. And so, to make matters worse, Ember is especially nervous since her dad is incredibly racist towards water. We constantly see him, like, raging against not just water, but people made of water. And so, I can imagine this is the main reason why people are very divisive about this film. The movie is trying to make us empathize with Ember and her dad, trying to empathize with how he has a dream, and throughout the film we see his health constantly getting worse, and Ember has to take his place. But it's hard to feel sorry for this guy when he is a real racist piece of crap. It's true that he and his kind were very mistreated, but it doesn't give him the right to be so rude to other people in return. So, especially to a guy like Wade, who did nothing wrong and just wants to help. And so, yeah, I know, like, that was another thing people were saying, like, when going into this film, they saw the previews for it, and they said, oh, I can tell I'm gonna hate the dad character. People are just sick of this archetype where, the girl's, dad hates her boyfriend or something. And so, yep, you got that trope in here, too. It doesn't help, though, that Ember is constantly lying about Wade in front of her dad, even making it look like he's the one who broke the pipes, and so she's not helping the case of making him, like her new boyfriend any better. She's just making things worse by constantly lying, and like I said earlier, I said how sometimes Ember makes some really dumb decisions in this movie, and that's one of them, but she just makes Wade out to be more of a bad person in her dad's eyes, and so... Of course, this film will finally have a third act breakup and a liar revealed trope all at once, and it is not fun to sit through. Luckily, the scene that follows where the two do reunite, it's a very good scene, but the movie would have been so much better without the stupid liar revealed breakup trope. Most of the scenes with Ember and Wade are amazing. They're like the highlights of the film. From their first date montage to a scene where Wade finds a way to protect Ember from water as he takes her through a beautiful ride through the bottom of the ocean. There's a scene where the two hold hands for the first time, and it's just a beautiful masterpiece of art right there. There's even a real tragic scene where the two are trapped in a deadly situation. Ember finally confesses her feelings to Wade, and it's a pretty sad scene. Considering how so many animated films in recent years made me feel nothing, it's like during scenes that are supposed to be dramatic or so, I feel nothing by it. And so it's amazing to finally see a movie, an animated film also, that nearly teared me up again. This movie may not be perfect, but its main characters, visuals, and music really made it stand out. I was not happy with the last two Pixar films. I hated Turning Red, and I did not care for Lightyear. And so Luca was like the last good Pixar film. So it's nice to see another Pixar movie where it's like, oh, that was worth seeing in theaters. I'm glad I saw that. I could have easily just waited for it to air on Disney Plus a few months later without paying anything extra. And I'm glad I saw this in theaters. It was a good movie overall. So I really do hope that people do give Elemental a chance. It deserves so much more than the bad rap it's currently getting. People were constantly getting mad at Disney for not making more original Pixar films and for not even releasing Pixar films in theaters. Yet, when Pixar finally gets another movie in theaters, an original one at that, no one goes to see it. I really don't get it. I don't see where all the hate is coming from. While it isn't my favorite Pixar movie, I do think it would be high up there if I were to ever make like a top list of my favorite Pixar films. It would definitely be somewhere like in the top 5 maybe. Just maybe not in the top 3 spot, but it'd definitely be in the top 5. I really did enjoy this. Before the movie started, there was also a never-before-seen episode of the Disney Plus short series based on Up called Doug Days. So the episode was called Carl's Date. This episode was originally said to air on Disney Plus last year, but it never showed up. So obviously they silently delayed it in order to release it with Elemental, because I guess they just didn't have a short air with it, so they just took something off Disney Plus and said, okay, we'll just take this and hope that no one remembered we said it was coming. So, despite being the last piece of media to feature the late Ed Asner reprising his role as Carl Fredricksen, the episode was underwhelming, unfortunately. It just wasn't very funny. And I've seen some of the episodes of Doug Days, and I thought some of them actually were funny, and this one just wasn't very funny. It's trying to pull on your heartstrings by being a short about Carl setting up a date with another woman, but oh no, he's feeling guilty about it. He hasn't dated in so long, and he's wondering what would his late wife Ellie think. So, of course, there's a lot of cheap callbacks to the first film, trying to tug on your heartstrings. There's a lot of unfunny scenes of Carl trying to get dating advice from Doug, the talking dog, and we don't even see Carl's date. The episode ends, it doesn't even have the date. It's all about him getting ready for the date. And so the episode ends with Carl finally facing his fears to leave his house for his date, and while telling Ellie he's apologizing to her spiritually and saying how no matter what, she will always be his girl. Admittedly, it's like Carl's last words were very emotional, but and especially since this was the last thing that Ed Asner was ever in. But I honestly couldn't believe, after all this, Pixar didn't have a message like "in loving memory of Ed Asner" at the end. It really felt disrespectful that they didn't. It's like you're expecting that to show up and tug on your heartstrings sooner, and because they don't, it just makes you go like, oh, wow. So, overall, Elemental is a visually stunning and emotional movie that deserves so much more love than it's currently getting. I'd give the movie a 7.5 out of 10. Well, that's all I have to show for now. Thank you for watching, see you next time, and have a great day.